So this next guest has just had one of the most amazing back ends of 2024, but we're here to talk about 2025 and the year ahead. Just hot off of a support tour with Scouting for Girls, and he's just released his new album, Scars, Ghosts, and Glory. We've got this week's guest, Vince Freeman, on the show. How are we doing, Vince?
I'm great. Thanks, John. Thanks for having me.
I mean, like we've just said, back end of 2024, you must have been absolutely buzzing, but I can imagine probably ready for a bit of a break over Christmas.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, on the face of it, it was a mammoth tour. I had no idea. My management rang me up and went, "Oh, we think we've got you an open slot, for Scouting for Girls." And I was thinking, great, okay, well, they were really popular when I was at uni. And I was thinking, it'll be good venues, but I had no idea how incredibly popular Scouting for Girls are, how great they are, and also the tour. I mean, I was doing an average of about 1,500 people every
Wow.
night, 33 dates. Um, it was really odd because at the front end of it, I was thinking, crikey, I'm going to be knackered by the end of it. And I I was, but there was that element of me where I was like, this is just great.
Yeah.
This is everything I've ever wanted to do, being able to perform in front of a lot of people, being able to tell my story, being able to listen to theirs. Um, so there was an element of kind of like, I don't want this to end. But yeah, so I've had a love, but I've had a lovely Christmas with with the kids and the family, and just ready to get back at it now.
So before we talk about what's ahead for
Yeah.
2025, let's talk about the very beginning and how you got into music. Now, am I right in saying that coffee
Oh.
plays a part at the beginning of your career?
Well, I've been in this a long time, John. Um, I think coffee plays a part of what I would call a Vince Freeman 2.0. I started, I've been a full-time musician, songwriter, recording artist, whatever you like to call it, for over 20 years, And so in that sense, coffee didn't come into that until
Not
much
quite yet.
later. But no, so did loads of stuff. I'll try and make it really brief. I went to uni to do sport. Then I was given a guitar by my mum for Christmas as a stocking filler when I was 21. Between 21 and about sort of 4 or 5 years ago, I you know, just loved playing music, done loads of things. I've had about I think about 7 or 8 European top tens. I've had a platinum disc. I've done stuff with people. And then what you're talking about is the worldwide pandemic. um,
Having to
and
change your life and reevaluate what you do for a living, that scenario.
exactly that. I mean, I had no idea that the world was going to shut down in such a dramatic way. I think that those people who are involved in events, catering, entertainment, all of that just stopped.
Hmm.
The arts was, you know, it was just like, no, you can't do that. You can't go out and be around people. And, I tried everything. I tried live streaming. I was giving people guitar lessons. I was, doing, trying to do the YouTubing thing, and everything I tried just kind of just fell short of where I was. I went into the pandemic with a fairly successful music career. I just spent a week with Alicia Keys's team in London writing for this girl. I was thinking, yeah, I've done it. I've made it. I've got my toe in the industry. and then I just couldn't catch a cold. Pardon the pardon the pun. And after about probably about a year, I was like, okay, I'm gonna lose the house. I'm gonna not be able to feed my family, and I'm lucky. I grew up in a world, and I grew up in a generation where you know if you didn't have it, you had to go out and get it.
Mm.
So I
Yeah.
was like, right, I've got to do something. So I managed to scrape enough money together to buy an old horse box and convert it into a coffee truck. So that's the long story short. That's why it plays a part in this whole, 2.0, this new version of me. Um, I started serving coffee and just trying to pay the bills. And the long story short is I served coffee to a music lawyer who I didn't know was a music lawyer, and he just became quite interested in me, and he introduced me to my now manager. My manager then went about trying to tell as many people as he knew, that you know you should listen to this guy. And fast forward 3 years, debut album, tour with Scouting for Girls, open for Van Morrison last year as well. Yeah, it's been a ride, wild ride, and I'm loving every minute of it.
I could imagine. I think what the pandemic did, and it did it to not just yourself, but pretty much every musician across the UK, it made them, they had to reevaluate a life, especially if they were living off the gigs and getting out and doing tours and earning money from it. I know a lot of musicians that I've spoken to did that. It's like a quiz that they did online. The government put it online saying, "Well, take this quiz if you work in the entertainment industry, and this will tell you what you can do differently." Some have ended up in IT or something completely opposite to the entertainment business. But it's
Yeah.
been very hard for some of them to come back into the music industry. And there was that uncertainty, wasn't there, when the pandemic was here, was would life return to normal?
Well, I very nearly sort of returned to a world of kind of. I was doing quite a lot of what you would call premium corporate entertainment, where I was playing other people's music uh, you know, for the privileged few, as it were.
Mm.
And when it started opening up again, I took a couple of those gigs, and what happened very quickly is that I think the first three shows that I took, and they're all very well paid, they were all cancelled overnight, with no notice and no comeback. And I was like, oh, well, I can't do this. I can't sort of base an income on the fact that actually these things may or may not happen. Um, so yeah, I think it changed a lot. I think the main thing for me was that I think quite selfishly I thought that everything I was doing was for my family, and actually until the pandemic hit, I didn't realize that everything I was doing was for myself.
Mm.
And it wasn't until I was made to stop and made to realize how lucky I am. I've got a I've got a wife that still puts up with me, that I love dearly, and I've got three beautiful children and I think strangely the pandemic gave me that sense of, oh,
Yeah.
these are the important things. These are the important things in life,
Put life
holding
into
hands with you.
perspective, I think, didn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It just made him, it's given me a new sense of perspective over, what's really important, you know.
Yeah.
Still being able to hold hands with my wife, that's the important thing.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Not,
I 100% agree with you.
yeah.
Obviously, I'm not a musician. I don't go out and doing gigs and things, but it does. I think for a lot of people, it made you realize how good you have it and what
Yeah.
the important things that you do have in your life that
Yeah.
you just couldn't access anymore and that you kind of craved and missed. So yeah, it made us all realize in a sense, what's more important and where do we go moving forward. But thank God we're out of that now. And
Yeah.
it was such a nightmare of a few years. We're back to somewhat of
Yeah.
a normal now. Things are still very, very different though. I mean, again, talking to a lot of musicians, some of the gigs don't quite get the audiences that they would have had pre-pandemic. There's still a bit of I don't know how to say it, but it's almost like some things haven't quite gone back to normal yet in the music industry.
I don't think the music industry has really recovered, and I don't
No.
think certain industries has recovered yet. I think that was a trend that was happening before the pandemic, though. I think ticket sales. The strange thing is the music industry is making more money than ever.
Mm,
In 2024, the music industry made more money than it has ever made in the history of the music industry. However, the distribution of those funds are very different now. So what you have is you have kind of like these massive, humongous tours, you know, the likes of Taylor Swift and you know Post Malone and Drake and The Weeknd and all that kind of stuff, and they're selling huge numbers
mm,
of tickets. But at the grassroots level, I think that's where it's really suffered.
yeah.
I did a tour last year in April with a full band, and I was so lucky to be able to do that. A whole UK headline tour with a six-piece band. But we nicknamed it the "Nobody Knows Who We Are" tour, you know, because a lot of the venues we were showing up to, just people weren't coming through the doors, and it's not, that's not unique to me. It's nothing, it's not to do with, necessarily my music or my following. That's just the state of of grassroots music or, smaller venues at the moment. It's tough out there.
Yeah. And I think another thing is as well the cost of living crisis at the moment, and then you've got people like Oasis that have made their comeback tour, and they're charging ridiculous amounts of money for people to go and watch them. And there are people buying those tickets, but realistically, they're unaffordable for the majority of the UK at the moment.
And I think also for those people who can afford it, that the knock-on effect of that is that, those people who can afford it, and what I mean by that is that people can go, oh, do you know what? I'm going to not go to a gig
Mm,
for the next 3 months, but I'm going to buy this one ticket for this gig.
yeah.
And that, I think that is happening a lot. So the Oasis tickets, what, five, six, seven, eight,
Yeah.
900 quid,
Yeah.
right? So if you're an avid music fan, but you're a massive Oasis fan, you want that ticket. So you might forego 4 or 5 shows at your local town hall or, you know, in order to do that.
Yeah.
So, that's the kind of knock on. I don't have the answers. You
No.
know, I wish I did.
One of the questions that I want to ask you, Vince, obviously you've been in the
Yeah.
game, you roughly said around about 20 years. From the music industry to how it was then to how it is now, music and the way it's released is very different to how it was 20 years ago. It was all CDs and that kind of thing 20 years ago. Whereas CDs now are just a collectible and not many people release music that way. It's all digital.
Yeah.
Do you feel as a musician that's a benefit, being able to release music that way? I mean, I don't know how the financial works of it are, fully, but I do understand that to get money from streams on Spotify, you've got to be in quite a significant amount of listens. Not being able to sell things physically, does that affect, you know, what you would essentially earn from being a musician?
Yeah. I mean, that's the simple answer. I'll give you an example. When iTunes came about
Mm,
and the whole of the music industry and the whole of the world were going, oh no, what is this thing? Digital MP3s, blah, blah, blah. You could release a song digitally on iTunes and it would be, sold for 99p 99 pence. And on some platforms, the artist would receive up to 70 pence, right, per stream. I've had in total over 80 million streams on Spotify in various different songs I've either written, sung, whatever. But over 80 million streams. I mean, if the world hadn't moved towards digital streaming platforms, income levels would be very, very different.
Mm.
You know, I mean, I don't need to explain that. I don't think, you know, you know, up to 70 pence per stream. If I'd had 80 million people buying a stream for 99p, I I probably wouldn't be talking to you, John. Um, I think, ultimately, there are more and more artists out there that are speaking out about the likes of Spotify.
Mm.
You know, I don't think it's helpful for me to be able to just sit here and kind of go, oh, Spotify is the worst thing and this is the best thing. I think the thing is that what has happened is that um, we don't have any control over the data that we have anymore. We used to have paper-based mailing lists.
Mm.
20 years ago, I'd go out to a gig and I'd put a piece of paper on the table and I'd ask people to give me their email addresses. And, you would over time develop a list of people that were actually interested in your music and you could contact them and connect with them and develop a community. And those people would be the people that ultimately provide you with an income, a reason to go out and gig, And I think the main issue with these kind of platforms like Spotify and all the social platforms as well. I mean, at one point last year, I had 250,000 monthly listeners on Spotify. Um, you know, I mean, just on the screen, I'll tell you how many of those I can directly contact. you know, um, and therein lies the problem because I can't. It's quite difficult for artists these days to actually directly connect with the people that are really interested in their music,
Yeah.
and I think
Essen-
that's, you know,
yeah, essentially creating that fan base as well.
yeah, yeah. It's one of the things I did on the Scouting for Girls tour was I started um had a QR code on the stage. And I was, every night I'd go, hey, it's not going to cost you anything. Scan this, you get free songs. And I'm not selling you anything. All I want is your email address. So that, if I then look at the end of the tour and go, hey, I've got like 150 people in Blackburn that might be interested in me, seeing me play. That has a huge amount of value to me.
Mm.
And it also means that I can go, hey, I'm thinking about doing a show. Do you fancy coming?
Absolutely.
You know, that's the thing for me. I think that's the important thing. I think it's really easy to kind of go, oh, Spotify's the worst and this, that, and the other. But I actually think if more importantly, it's just I want to have a connection with the people that listen to my music.
Yeah.
And if I can do that, then the rest of it will take care of itself.
Yeah, absolutely.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. Now, I'm going to ask you another question, and this might be wrong, so do correct me if it is. Would you say your biggest sort of a hit that sort of put you on the map was the Sun is Shining by Lost Frequencies?
Uh, uh, yes and no.
Okay.
um, the Sun is Shining was that's the song that I got a platinum disc for that.
Yeah.
So in that sense, you are totally right. Um, and it still gets, a lot of attention. I think the most important song that I've ever written, just because of the timing of it, was a song called "The Singer,"
Hmm.
and I wrote it after I came off The Voice in like 2012. Didn't come out for a couple of years, but it got chosen as the single for a finalist on The Voice Germany, and it went like number two in Germany as a single. But that was the first ever time I'd ever done anything, or I wrote it with a guy called Ian Dench. He's amazing. He's the guy in EMF. You're unbelievable, all that kind of stuff. But it was the first time I'd written anything that the world went, or the music industry went, yeah, that's great. We'll take that. And but it did really well, and it actually was the starting point, I guess, for me. It it gave me a like a step onto the first rung of the ladder. So that's why I'm saying yes and no.
Yeah.
Like Sun is Shining was like incredible. I loved the song from the moment I heard it. And I remember ringing the producer that had sent it to me. He's like, I need a vocal for this. How do you fancy it? And I rang him up and I was like, do not give this to anybody else. I just fell in love with the song, you know, straight away, and I didn't know where it was going or who was going to use it, but I was like, I need to do this vocal. So yeah, I think it was, yeah, like so yes, but in terms of importance, like the singer was more important,
Yeah.
with hindsight,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. Now, if you could collaborate with any artist, any producer, who would you want to collaborate with if you could do a future hit together?
Oh wow. Um, I think it would have to be a producer,
Yeah.
um, or a songwriter, someone like Ryan Tedder. Um, Crikey, it's a difficult one because I love everything,
Yeah.
and what I mean by that is that like I listen to everything from Nine Inch Nails to the Spice Girls, and uh, music fascinates me in that way. Um, yeah, collaboration is just like is one of the joys in life for me. Getting in a room with anybody, whether it's a musician, an artist, songwriter, a record producer, finding your way, you know, figuring out your role in that relationship is one of the joys in life for me. Um, I guess as a singer, I'd love, I mean, she doesn't do collaborations, not that I know of, but Adele would be, I wouldn't mind having a duet with her.
But you've got to wait a few more years now. She's on a break again.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, I hope that answers that question. I mean, like, there are so many producers in the world that I'd love to work with. Um, Ryan Tedder is like an incredible producer, but then you've got like Dre and Timberland and Kanye West, and like they're all doing their own thing, but like, ugh, just they these are people that redefined genres.
Yeah.
So I guess if I could get in a room with someone like that, that'd be amazing.
Scars, Ghosts, and Glory. This is your latest album, was released back in October last year. Let's talk about that now and how the album came together and how you managed to sort of narrow it down to the tracks you chose just for that album.
Scars, Ghosts, and Glory. All the scars, all the ghosts, and people have asked me about what the glory means, and what I mean by the glory is all those little wins. It's not the oh I made it.
Mm.
It's the God, I had a really nice afternoon today. Those little wins along the way. So how did I narrow it down? I mean, it was hard because I've written probably probably over 400 songs over the years. Um, so it was hard in that sense, but easy in another because, ultimately, when you write a decent song, when you do something you're proud of, if you're an artist, a poet, or, it doesn't matter actually. If you just do something, you just know when you've done something and you're like, oh, that was all right, that.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't really like choosing from a list of 400 songs. Ultimately, in the end, it was like choosing from maybe 20, where I was like, yeah, these. And then out of those 20, there were about sort of, three or four that I was like, do you know what? They're so dyed in the wool country or dance music. There's no way to actually to make those songs fit in a whole album.
Mm.
And actually, in the end, it was, that part of the process was, writing about my life. And I didn't specifically want, you know, I I hoped that there would be a thread through the album. I hoped that there would be a continuity, but like setting out to do that, that's like a recipe for disaster. But yeah, actually listening to it, there is a thread, and I think the thread is hopefulness and humanity and also, acceptance, you know. And I think that kind of spans through the album. I've never been prouder of anything, and I hope as many people as possible listen to it.
Obviously, we're in 2025 now. We had an amazing 2024. What's lined up for this year? What have you got planned for the rest of 2025?
Um, I am gonna be busy. It's early in the year to be able to kind of go, oh yeah, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna do this. There's already a number of festivals that I haven't announced yet
Hmm?
that I'm going to be doing. Um, I think the main thing for me is that I just want to continue doing what I feel like I was born to do. Um, Performing live it feels like breathing to me, and writing songs and recording songs it feels the same way. So I want to continue writing. I want to continue playing live. I hope that I get to play in front of more people than I did in 2024. Um, yeah, to be honest with you, I'm just really excited. I'm really excited as in terms of what 2025 has to offer because I've realized that when I was younger, I used to listen to music, and every now and again, a song would come on and it would affect me. And I never thought I would be that person. I never thought that I would be that artist that has the privilege of being able to write something that that might help
Mm.
somebody, and I've seen that the moment I started getting to perform these songs live, I started seeing how amazing music is and how amazing and how much it can help and how much it can give people hope. And I just want to do more of that.
It sounds like an amazing plan, to be fair. It sounds like you definitely know what you're going to be doing this year, which is exciting. Before we talk about the song that we're going to play, if
Yeah.
people want to follow you, want to listen to their music, where are the best places to do that?
Um, I always say this, the best place to go is my website, and that's just for the benefit of maybe those people who aren't into social media and all that kind of stuff. But it's all on my website. So if you just remember my name, Vince Freeman, and add a .com to the end, on that front page, you will see all the links that you need. So if your favorite social media is Instagram. You can go there, etc. So the best place to find where I'm playing, what I'm doing, and all my social media is there, vincefreeman.com.
Very easy. I like it. We're going to play the song Imposter. Before we do
Yeah.
that, I want you to tell me a little bit about the song. Has the song got a story behind it?
Yeah, it does. It's for everyone. It started with a phone call from my older sister. She was having a bit of a hard time of it, I guess. She was worried about her health, and she said something about her health that was a kind of a strange way to say it. She was like, "Oh, it feels like sometimes it don't feel like I breathe right," and I was like, "It's really," but it really struck me, and so I set out to write a song that's for everyone. It's not for me, it's for you. It's for anybody that has felt lost, set aside, not good enough, doesn't feel part of the team or the group that's cool. Um, it's about realizing that actually, if we could all just remember that we're all made of the same stuff, we're all stardust at the end of the day, and I think we'd be in a much better club across the world if we could do that. So that's what Imposter's about. We're all someone's father, we're all someone's son, we're all everybody has a connection to everybody else. So that's what the song's about. And that's why I thought it would be good to play that, in case anybody out there is just feeling a little bit, like they don't matter. This is the song for them.